is you.
Down in the valley, moved up from the city. It's a new way of living and I'm trying to get used to it. 1 park coolers, half an ounce of an idiot. Ordered a Manhattan and they call me a Cidiot. At first I hurt my feelings, but it's kinda got her into it. When you move to the country, they can tell when you're new to it. I'm looking at a place, but I'm trying to keep fitting in. It takes too long to be a local, so for now I'm a Cidiot.
I'm Matt Zucker, and this is Cidiot, learning to live and love life in the Hudson Valley. Reflections on this season. You know winter's here when it's time for Hudson Winter Walk, the Christmas carols, and its petting zoo. When you need to crank through your winter to-do list. And in modern audio times, you get your Spotify Unwrapped. Spotify Unwrapped is when Spotify shares back with you what you listen to all year and presents it as a fun, enthusiastic infographic. And if you're a podcaster on Spotify for podcasters like Cidiot is, you get back what your listeners listen to in a fun, enthusiastic infographic. It's data porn. And while it's not really as intelligent as it pretends to be, it's a brilliant idea, and it's one of my favorite marketing examples. So what did I see in Cidiot's Unwrapped? Well, the biggest episode, it said, was 81, Camp Catskill, which I agree was a terrific episode and makes sense as the most listened to, since it was also the debut of the season. Also, 62% of listeners apparently came in this season, which I think is interesting and shocking. That's a lot. The episode that really brought in the most listeners, though, 12%, was Bimmy's Canteen, episode 89. This made me happy, since this was both about this terrific new restaurant Brian and I ate at, but also about Chatham, New York, a town in the region I hadn't really covered. I'm guessing that it brought in new listeners because it was a new area, and also that maybe Ellen and Chris, the owners and their PR team, shared it a lot and brought in those new folks. The most shared episode on its own, though, at least on Spotify, which is just one platform, was episode 91, Stationery. Stationery is about Red Hook Stationery Company here in Red Hook, and I suspect it's a lot of my local fans and friends showing off one of our favorite new businesses of the year. Then the data gets a little deeper, and things I wouldn't think to ask about. Apparently, I'm a top 10 podcast for 116 fans, and a top 5 podcast for 68 fans. And get this, Cidiot is a number 1 podcast for 27 fans. Who are you, these 27? I mean, there's my family, but who else? Free Cidiot notebooks or whatever you want. The special 27. Okay, this episode is a season finale. Some reflections, some thoughts, some lessons. Yeah, I'm exhausted, but that doesn't mean in an unhappy way. So it's been busy getting ready for winter. This was my checklist, which I think I've mostly finished. First was the firewood, ordered months ago, and as you may remember from earlier episodes, Brian and I have been on a quest to not just find a great source, but to find a service that will actually stack it for us too. For the first couple years, the original service was just dump it in the driveway, and we'd spend several days ferrying it to the garage as well as to the front porch. Now, though, we have a service that actually stacks it for us and does a really beautiful, almost artful job of it. Second was clearing the gutters. You have to wait until the leaves stop falling. Unfortunately, we had a tree leaning against the gutters, and a damaged one we didn't realize, so we had to take care of the tree, and then had the Brothers with Gutters service come over and clear the gutters. Third was an ongoing saga of dead trees that had fallen in the creek. They were mostly dead trees, fallen from the other side, my neighbor's property, not ours, but they were still ugly in the creek, and worse, were slowing up the flow of the water, and as it started to freeze, I was getting panicked about flooding. I wrote to New York State since the creek is state-run, but they said it's for the landowners to deal with. The neighbor didn't seem interested in doing anything immediately, and considering all the other down trees they haven't dealt with from previous years, I think we were on our own to deal with it if we wanted to. Fortunately, I found someone who could get rid of some of the trees. And it wasn't cheap, but at least we were able to clear 3 or 4 from the creek and improve the water flow. A lot more to do. As the temperature started to drop, you'll remember my drama with the heat tape every year. So first a handyman helped me replace the heat tape. It's been like 8 years with the same one, so I thought I could use a fresh one. And then we plugged it in, and so far, so good. If you have a furnace, you should have it inspected. We also had heat pumps installed, and we had to replace filters in it, we learned. I still topped up the oil furnace, even though for us it's really now just backup. The fireplace itself needs to be cleaned every year for safety and efficiency. Brian took care of that way back in October. You really want to do this to avoid smoke buildup. Holiday time comes quickly, and as I've mentioned in winter episodes past, there are fewer thank you gifts than when we were in the city, but each one here you have to do is really important, whether it's the folks who deliver packages or the trash pickup service. We do Dunkin' gift cards, and for the sanitation service, I tape them to the cans the night before pickup. This time, though, Brian got a text from our neighbor Mary, who walks our street every morning. Apparently my tape wasn't strong enough, so the cards blew off into the road. Luckily, the pickup times have changed recently, so I went out on the street, found the cards in the middle of the road, retaped them to the cans, and then when they came later, it was all gone and all good. This is what non-city living is. As I'm sure you do, I have some other winter prep traditions. I dry clean all my sweaters so they're fresh for the first wear. I check flashlights and replace batteries. I love my flashlights and lamps. You'd be surprised how easily batteries corrode, and that flashlight or stand-up lamp that you depend on in an emergency doesn't work, but all it needs is a replacement of batteries. Or maybe you wouldn't be surprised, but yeah, I'm a Cidiot, so I was. So lessons from this past year, because this past season of Cidiot taught me a lot. First, I learned to garden. Thank you, Four Corners Community Farm. I also got to know some local businesses, Camp Catskill in Tannersville, Corner Counter and Red Hook Stationery in Red Hook, Bibby's Canteen in Chatham. I tried some new topics, like aging in the Hudson Valley. Thought that was a great interview with Brian Jones from the Dutchess County Office for the Aging, all about staying in your home and not falling, and also creative in the Hudson Valley with Connect HV, a community for creatives which you can still sign up for free. See the show notes for links. I also started to be spontaneous again. The episode Bleats from Shape and Wool was created in just a few hours with Rachel visiting with my nephew Sam. She gave us quite a tour and a guide to the Sheep and Wool Festival in Rhinebeck, a love letter to fiber folk. Yes, fiber folk. I tried to get in some humor again. Upstate Art Weekend? I thought it took a humorous turn with my interview of an artist and her imaginary character boyfriend Brian. There also were other lessons about infrastructure, a constant challenge for me as you know. The flooding this past week was horrible. The creek overflowed like it never has, but it did. Fortunately, our utilities, generator and all, were raised, but 2/3 of our property was covered. The basement flooded. The sub pump, whatever that is, failed. The good news is, Brian and I did not scream at each other at all. We calmly called our service, you need to have a service, and they replaced the sub pump, whatever it is, right away. Worse, though, was for Nora. She couldn't find a place to poo. Water sucks. And last but not least, I kind of jumped the shark, and I got certified as a Dutchess County Tourist Ambassador. It was just one of those things on my want-to-do list, cravings I have that I write down to someday do, and I did it. I think moving to the country has definitely opened me up to try new things. Next season, there's going to be the 100th episode of Cidiot. Everyone's asking me what I'm going to do for it, so I keep saying something big, but I actually have no plan. If you have an idea for my 100th episode, please write it in. Or better yet, send in a voicemail message that I can use in the show, maybe wishing Cidiot a happy 100th and why. I bet I'll be inspired and motivated. Till then, the Cidiot bookstore is open, and if you want to browse books about the Hudson Valley or moving to the country, the link is in the show notes and via the website under Shop. Plus, you can support your choice of the local bookstore and the show itself. It looks like I'm also doing a little event at the co-working and event space in Rhinebeck in January. It's likely going to be on Thursday, January 18th around 5 p.m. An evening with a bunch of Cidiots, I'm calling it. I'm just going to do a talk and serve some New Year's drinks. For dry January people, I know you're out there, I'll figure out some kind of mocktail. Info will be on Instagram and in my newsletter. Sign up for it if you're not already on it. Thanks again for a great season. Please write in with ideas for 100th episode or send in a birthday message by voice. And visit that Cidiot bookshop. Links on the site and show notes. Happy New Year. Good luck with your resolutions, and hopefully one of them is to come visit.
Down in the valley, moved up from the city. It's a new way of living and I'm trying to get used to it. 1 park noodles, half an ounce of an idiot. Ordered a Manhattan and they call me a Cidiot. At first it hurt my feelings, but it's kinda got a ring to it. When you move to the country, they can tell when you're new to it. I'm looking at a place, but I'm trying to keep fitting in. It takes too long to be a local, so for now I'm a Cidiot.